Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to your 2022 tax seminar. Make sure you're in the right place. Good morning to everybody joining us on Facebook and YouTube. It's a pleasure to have you in this space. Look forward to getting started with you this morning on how you can save money in 2023. So as we just settle in, we recognize that it is not a tax seminar. No, this is something quite different in language and tone. It's designed to shift us out of that quotidian world of facts and figures and into something quite unique and experiential. Something that will have you open the hidden doors and begin to make your own inward journey to this divine center where all of life waits you in welcome. And so we are going to be looking today at how we can actually come to embody what's been said in the New Testament, to be in the world, but not of it. We're going to be looking at the phenomenal teachings of Sufism, and maybe we'll get to have some of the Course in Miracles come in if there's time, on how to see this world in a new way and undergo an alchemical transformation within our own perception. Because like he says in A Course in Miracles, seek not to change the world, but change your thoughts about the world. That how we are perceiving this moment is all the reality that we have, our interpretations, our opinions, our judgments, the way that we expect to see this moment and any future moment is the way that reality shows up for us. We are unconsciously contouring and crafting our reality experience. And so as we become more familiarized with how we are unconsciously molding and manipulating the facts and figures of reality, we begin to see that there's a lot more leeway and choice on how we can actually show up in a more proactive and helpful way, both to ourselves and to the sacred beings that still exist in a world that seems to be veiled by sorrow and tears. It's one of the things that we want to look at clearly, because when we're on the spiritual path, we often start our spiritual journey through some kind of crisis, through some kind of breakdown, through some kind of deep existential questioning. What's life about? Why am I here? What's it all for? So these deep burning questions where we seek the experience of our ultimate concern, what is truly valuable for us, we begin to realize that this world, in the way that it first presents as a separate material phenomena, is not going to ever satisfy or give us what we're looking for. We've tried it, we've run the gamut, we've experienced so many different ways of encountering the world, engaging the world, desiring the world. And yet at the same time, we are still left empty and hollow on some fundamental existential level. So what to do? Well, again, the echo of Jesus' words from the Course, we have to change our thoughts about the world. So we have to, in order to do that, begin to encounter the current way that we think about the world. What are our views? What are our beliefs? So the spiritual journey is really one of deep introspection, deep inquiry, confronting our prejudices, again, as he says in A Course in Miracles, our secret sins and our hidden hates. We have to uncover our unconscious projections that we've been layering into the world and experiencing the world in a way that really does look like it's not the best place to be. So what we want to do then is recognize that our way of looking at the world has really been kind of like a dream or a sleep. And you encounter this oftentimes in the spiritual teaching. And one of the ways that we're going to go about uncovering or unveiling the world before us this morning is to do it through the language of Sufism. And in fact, Sufism refers to itself as the language of unveiling. And it speaks very specifically that when we are looking at the world, the people in the world, the objects in the world, the events in the world, We have two choices on how to perceive the world. We can see all of the events, people, and situations as veils, as idols, as blocks that keep reinforcing the dualism or the split where we are separate from everything and everyone, and God is not here. Like, that's the fundamental truth taken from that experience of life. When you see yourself as separate and everyone else as separate, and all events are based on how your opinion molds and manipulates it on your desire scale, how much do you like it, how much do you not like it, how much does it work for you, how much does it not work for you in your group, in your, political allies or what have you, all of that is based within a belief system where God is not here. Reality is not here. And so we are actually seeing a veiled world. The language of unveiling will take those veils off, which means we have to see how we've been projecting our opinions, our views, our prejudices. So that language of unveiling then begins to give us hope, because what we start to see in a first kind of in a shimmering, flickering, faint way is that those veils now become signs. They become ways of whispering. God is whispering to us through people, events, and situations. We begin to pick up this hidden voice, this hidden knowledge that is right here, right now, in everything, permeating everything. But we didn't see it because we were so preoccupied with our own image making, what we thought everything was, what we thought it was for. Did we like it? Did we not like it? All based within this isolated little dreaming self. Once we start to take the veils off of all of that prejudice and projection, we see that God is right here, right now, and his signs are everywhere. And so we're going to be looking today at this unveiling of the world and changing your thoughts, unveiling your thoughts about the world. Okay, sound good? Okay. Now, we are told in the teachings of Sufism that in order to really imbibe this nectar of the divine, we have to be a still cup, because the pitcher of God's grace is going to pour out. And if our cup is always moving, meaning our mind, then we're not going to catch the grace. So we have to actually come into this moment and wait with expectancy to receive, because this impulse to give is the natural will of the Creator. And the impulse to receive is the natural will of the vessel or creature. But we have to tame the mind and calm the mind in order to come back to that natural impulse of truly receiving what we need in this moment, and that is God's grace. So give yourself a moment to just stop. Even stop seeking. Stop trying. Stop trying to be something, and just open to receive. So in this still moment, just feel as if the crown of your head is very soft and porous and open to the impressions that are coming from above. And allow this descent of grace to take place where you can feel that presence of God entering through the crown of your head. And like an anointing of oil or nectar, entering into your bloodstream, into your nervous system, all the way cascading down from the crown through your head, your neck and torso, your arms and fingertips, your abdomen, hips and legs and calves and toes. Just receive this anointing power, this descent of grace, this Shakti Pat. And open. And open. And feel that place within the heart becoming less rigid, melting like wax, as this presence of the divine grace begins to go to work within the inner recesses of your heart. So that you can open these blocked spaces that are keeping you from the abundance, from the safety, from the joy, from the healing that you truly want. Keep saying yes, moment by moment, as we go on our journey this morning. Yes to this grace and to the work of grace within the deepest recesses of your life and heart. Trust that this is all being carried out by a higher intelligence that knows you better than you know yourself. And through this childlike faith, all will be accomplished. And so it is. So we're going to start this morning talking about the dream of the world, and we're going to see it through the language of Hafiz. And this poem is entitled, "Forgive the Dream." All your images of winter I see against your sky. I understand the wounds that have not healed in you. They exist because God and love have yet to become real enough to allow you to forgive the dream. You will listen to an old alley song that brings your body pain. Now, chain your ears to his pacing drum and flute. Fix your eyes upon the magnificent arch of his brow that supports and allows this universe to expand. Your hands, feet, and heart are wise and want to know the warmth of the perfect one's circle. A true saint is an earth to an eternal spring. So very important steps along the way for us in our guidance this morning. That our pain, our woundedness is with us. We carry it with us into each moment until God and love have become real enough so that we can radically forgive and let go of the past that we keep dragging into the present moment and thus making our future a wounded future, a wounded world. He also says that we go back to listen to these old alley songs, these dark alleys within the mind. We keep going back to hear these familiar tunes of pain that actually do hurt the body. Where the mind goes, prana flows. And prana is that subtle life force that permeates your body and your sensations and your vitality. So if you're taking your mind and your life force into the dark alleys of pain by listening to these old songs of trauma and woundedness and blame, you're going to literally decrease your life force, your vitality, and inflict hardship, illness on your body. So this is all part of how we've turned our face away from love and towards the pain. Now this journey is really one of turning our face away from pain and toward love. You know, there's that passage in chapter 1 of the Epistle to Romans where St. Paul says that we were created in the gnosis, or knowledge of God. And because of this knowledge of God, we had the ability to be like God in co-creatorship. And instead, Paul said, we actually turned our face away from the knowledge of the Creator and toward the creation. And we got lost in the images and forms of creation. And in that, we forgot our root, we forgot our source, we forgot our love. And without that love, all of the images and forms and creatures of creation actually become pain. You want something that you can't have, right? This is Buddha's gig. You want something that you can't have, so you suffer. Or you get something that you love, but then it leaves you, so you suffer. So when you're not connected to your root, which is the knowledge of your source, no matter how good the world is, it will still be a veil of pain. That's why the Sufis compared the pleasures of the world to a camel who delights in eating thorns. The camel enjoys the thorns because he thinks the thorns are delicious, but what he doesn't know is that the lacerations from the thorns on his mouth are causing him to eat his own blood, and the saltiness of the blood is what he's delighting in. So the appearance of the world is really just thorns and thistles, as we're told in Genesis, and they're going to bring us pain. We have to reconnect to the source, which is love. And when we do this, when we turn our face away from the veiled existence and back into the love of our Creator and our source, we literally come home in the present moment, and our past and our woundedness is completely shined away. We awaken from the dream. We awaken from loneliness and wandering and longing. So this is what he's saying. All of our wounds exist because God and love have yet to become real enough for you. Love that. Our wounds, our pain, could not exist if our mind were to fix itself on the return journey and turn its face away from the world and the activities of the world that are really just lures to take you further and further out into oblivion, into obscuration, into unknowing. Okay. Hope you packed your trail mix, because we're going to be going up the mountain now. This one is, I vote for you, for God. So Hafiz tells us, when your eyes have found the strength to constantly speak to the world all that is most dear to your own life, when your hands, feet, and tongue can perform in that rare unison that comforts this longing earth with the knowledge. Your soul. Your soul has been groomed in his city of love. And when you can make others laugh with jokes that belittle no one, and your words always unite, Hafiz does vote for you. Hafiz will vote for you to be the minister of every country in this universe. Hafiz does vote for you, my dear. I vote for you to be God. So what Hafiz is saying is that we go from being in the veils and pain of the world and inflicting pain and going into those dark alleys because God is not real enough and love is not real enough yet in our mind, to cultivating the desire for love in God to be more real to us than the world. You see? If the world is real, God doesn't exist. If God is real, the world as we know it doesn't exist. One's a dream. One's reality. You're in this valley of decision, making a choice. What is real for you? What do you want? What do you desire? When you make your choice to come home, to let go of your woundedness, to heal and forgive your past, and to open up to the grace in the present moment, you're taken over by love. You're groomed in this city of love deep in your heart. Your hands, your feet, your mouth, your speech, every action that you then commit binds and heals and saves the world. You literally become a dynamo in the world that will bring it back to the knowledge of its source. You are starting to fulfill your function as a true human being, a true mensch. So this was the trust, you could say, as the Sufis describe it, that was bestowed upon the original human creation. Humanity was given a divine trust to be the Khalifa, to be the vicegerent, to be the one who knows the higher realities and brings those higher realities of love into the creation, to uplift the creation. When we're not doing that, we are not truly human. We live and die like beasts. This one I think you're familiar with. A hole in a flute. I am a hole in a flute that the Christ's breath moves through. Listen to this music. I am the concert from the mouth of every creature singing with the myriad chords. So this is the awakening from the dream and realizing that one breath moves all beings, one power governs all life, and you become that. Remember, Hafiz just says, I vote for you, for God. You literally come back to your inheritance, which is to be co-creator in this divine breath. But in order for this to be your inheritance, where it literally becomes your embodied existence in this world, you must turn away from the alleys of pain, allow love and the knowledge of your Creator to come in and heal your woundedness, and then open to be used as your true calling deep down has the impulse to embody this mission, to become this presence in all of the minutiae and seeming everydayness of your life. that Christ's breath will blow through all of your life. I just wanted to pause in the readings of Hafiz because that image of the flute is taken up in Rumi's poem, the Mathnawi. And there's this wonderful story that Rumi tells that I'll have to summarize to some degree. It's about a harpist, and he was sensational in his youth, and he was somebody who inspired people with his music, and his voice was like the voice of an angel. And everybody just felt so uplifted by his contribution. But as the world goes, age sets in, fingers not so nimble, voice becomes a bit froggy. And so he begins to feel isolated and lonely now because his gift isn't what it once was. And in his poverty and obscurity, this kindling of wanting only God begins to burn in him. And that's sometimes what it usually takes, right? Most of us are sort of on our, we've passed over the hill, you can say, in this room. Because we can start to see that the flower of youth, oftentimes enjoyable and yet so obscuring to the facts, that when that flower begins to fade, we begin to actually get a better handle on magnetic north, what is really up. And so this is what's happening to the harpist. He's no longer enamored with the world, and he's seeking only God. And so he's so poor he doesn't even have food to eat. And so God goes and appears in a dream to Umar, who is the caliph at the time, right, the leader of the land, and tells the leader, bring money to this man and give him what he desires. So this is another thing that I found really beautiful in the way that the world of God works. That every urge and every need that you have is known. And if you were to cast your cares upon him and allow your needs to become met through his divine action, he could start to show up in your world. Instead of veils, you'll see signs. People will come along at the right time, just when you need it the most. But this means you have to turn your attention to him, not to hoping that what you've determined to be the right person or the right situation, as you desire it to be, is the one where you're going to draw the needs for yourself. No, he's not able to act in your world if you're showing up that way. Because you're just carrying on as your own lawgiver, your own driver. He's got to drive your life. And so this is what happens. Umar is given the inspiration to go and see this man. And when the man wakes up, he's startled to see Umar because this man has now gone into a cemetery, and he's resting on a tomb, laying on his harp, sleeping. And when he sees Umar, they begin to have a conversation. And Umar says this to him: "This wailing of yours is one of the marks of being self-conscious." Right? The way of him that has passed away from self-consciousness is another way, because being so taken up by yourself and your needs is a form of sin. This idea of being self-conscious, like always concerned about yourself, obsessed with yourself, its wants, its needs, the Sufis call sobriety. In other words, you're not drunk on God. You're sober. You're living through this partial reason that's governing your life. So you don't have time or room for God. God doesn't exist. Your woundedness is your woundedness. You got to deal with it. Your problems are your problems. You got to deal with it. And so this is where you're sober in the world, not drunk on God. So sobriety exists from recollection of what is past. In other words, you stay sober in the world because you identify as your past. Past and future are to you a curtain separating you from God. So when your partial rational mind, the mind that you think you are given to operate with in the world, is always seeing things in terms of linear time. Right now you're doing it until you begin to turn your face around. When you look out onto the veiled world from your limited perception, you're in time. When you turn your face around and seek only the face of God, you begin to go into the eternal now, and the veils are rent. This is a language of unveiling. Past and future veil you from God. How? Because you think they exist. That's how. Where's the past and future? It's a trick of mind. So when we become very still in this moment, like the vessel ready to receive grace, past and future are no longer a thought. We don't give them existence. We only give God existence now. Spirit, now. Cast fire on both past and future. How long, because of these two things, will you be full of knots, like a reed, right? A fresh reed that's just plucked from the reed bed has to be whittled, right? Because it's all knotty. When we're thinking in terms of our separate existence, and we're so self-consumed about our needs and our wants and our wounds, we're knotty and we're veiled. But we can set fire to that whole picture of our former way of thinking. Seek not to change the world. Change your thoughts about being veiled. So while the reed is knotted, it is not a sharer of secrets. Remember, we just read Hafiz. I am like a hollow reed put to the lips where the Christ breath blows through me. And everything that comes out of me is the light and love and presence of God. So while the reed is knotted, when it's self-consumed, stuck in past and future, it is not a sharer in the secrets, in the knowledge of the breath of the All-Merciful. So right now you can begin to unveil even your breath. Let your breath become unveiled. And your breath can begin to merge with a deeper breath that's blowing through you right now. You can melt into it. It can start breathing you now. Cast your cares upon Him. Whilst the reed is knotted, it is not a sharer of secrets. It is not the companion of the flute player's lip and voice. when you are engaged in going out, seeking for God, you are indeed wrapped in going about seeking for God. When you have come home after seeking God, you're still with yourself, self-conscious that you're home after seeking for God. O you whose knowledge is without knowledge of the giver of knowledge, your repentance, which means your turning of your face around to go home, is worse than sin. Why is it worse, Rumi? Because you actually think you're seeking for God, when it's just another veil, disguised as going out and seeking for God, because we never let go of being self-consumed. I am doing this. I have to become enlightened. I have to let go of my woundedness. I have to stop feeling this pain. He says, at one time you turn to the things that make you feel low. At other times you are falling in love with the things that make you feel high. And so when Umar points this out to the harpist, and he sees that Umar becomes a reflector of mysteries, the old man's heart awakens from within. He starts to see this subtle self-deception of false seeking, of self-consumption in the guise of spirituality. Now, watch your mind carefully, because there'll be another version of you now that's going, see, you're doing it wrong. Look at how messed up you are. I don't like this. That is just more self-consumption. So this old man with the illumined heart now, he became without weeping or laughter. Right? Got out of either side of the dilemma, up or down, good or bad. He became like the soul, still, in the moment, receptive to the grace that's coming in right now, merging with his breath. In that hour, such a bewilderment arose within him that he went forth from heaven and earth, a seeking and searching beyond all seeking and search. Rumi says, I know not how to describe it. If you know, tell me. Words and feelings beyond all feelings and words. He had become drowned in the beauty of the Lord of Majesty. Drowned. Not in such wise that there should be for him any deliverance, or that anyone should know him except the divine ocean. Partial reason would not be telling of the mysteries of universal reason if there were not demand after demand, or perpetual divine impulses necessitating the manifestation of these mysteries in us. We're being called relentlessly, endlessly called. Come home. Turn your face around. You're going the wrong way. Unveil my majesty and realize that I take care of you. You're mine. I'm yours. Feel this love and make it the most real for you. Then the sorrows of this life will seem like nothing. But drowned in me. And remember what is said in the Mathnawi, drowned in such a way that there should be for you no deliverance of what you now think of yourself. When you drowned, you literally become one with the divine ocean. All you want to know is the beauty, the sweetness, the care, the peace of God. So this relentless call, this demand after demand to wake up, to come home, to be who you are, to manifest divinity on the human plane, is arriving. The waves of that sea reach this place. So in other words, we are receptacles of this great sea coming in. This universal reason is coming in to our partial reason and expanding us, smoothing out our knots, and allowing the breath of the All-Merciful to blow through our life and to unveil this world. Last one from Hafiz. Where is the door to God? In the sound of a barking dog, in the ring of a hammer, in a drop of rain, in the face of everyone I see. The door of God. We're not alone. We're not cut off. We're not being held back or barred from heaven. Heaven is here. There is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time. Our knotted perception of past and future, our addiction to go into the dark alleys of our mind, that's what's barring us from heaven. And I lied. My brother is just too good. And this is the final one for sure. Becoming human. Once a man came to me and spoke for hours about his great visions of God that he felt he was having. He asked me for confirmation, saying, "Are these wondrous dreams true?" I replied, "How many goats do you have?" He looked surprised and said, "I am speaking of sublime visions, and you're asking me about goats?" And I spoke again, saying, "Yes, brother, how many do you have?" "Well, Hafiz, I have 62. "And how many wives?" Again he looked surprised, then said, 4, which is custom in Sharia or Islamic cultures. So if you're thinking to become a Muslim now so that you can have 4 wives, hold that thought. So, how many rose bushes in your garden? How many children? Are your parents still alive? Do you feed the birds in winter? And to all he answered. Then I said, "You asked me if I thought your visions were true. I would say that they were if they make you become more human, more kind to every creature and plant that you know. So this is Hafiz, again, giving us a reminder to beware of false seeking, where we can become so consumed with titillating metaphysics and lost in the next novel idea that's coming down the spiritual pike. And all the while, we're mistreating others, being unkind to others, being especially unkind or uncaring or unconscious towards animals and plants. That this Christ breath, remember, is to blow through us into the world and make an impact. And its mercy and its goodness and its kindness is to permeate every action, every word, every thought from the unknotted reed. I'm hearing Lou Reed's song, Take a Walk on the Wild Side. Funny how we make these connections, huh? A reed named Lou. So this is going to be very helpful for us to really solidify and clarify these ideas that we've been discussing here this morning. This comes from a book by William Chittick, one of the leading scholars on Sufism, a wonderful author. And in his book, Sufism, this is what Professor Chittick has to say. The world and everything within it can be viewed from 2 points of view. In one respect, all things are other than God and hence unreal. In another respect, all things are signs of God and therefore real in some degree. Here then we have a further discernment of fundamental importance between phenomena as signs and phenomena as veils. Sufis explain the distinction between signs and veils, employing many sets of terms according to one formulation. Each existent thing can be said to have 2 faces. Right? Every living entity has 2 faces. One is an eastern face, and the other is a western face, he explains. If we look at the western face of things, we find no trace of the sun, since it has set. If we look at the eastern face of the same things, we see the sun shining in its full glory. Everything displays both faces at the same time. But the vast majority of people see only the western face. No sun, no light, only veils. They have no awareness that everything is a sign of God, in which he is disclosing his own reality. For them, the Quranic verse, wherever you turn, there is the face of God in the barking dog, in the ring of a hammer, in the face of everyone I see. There is God, unveiled. The great Sufis, the ones who have awakened from the dream, witness God in everything. In their case, God has answered the prayer, show us things as they are. For them, the awakened ones, all things are truly and actually signs of God. All of us have two faces. Eastern, looking at the sun, our natural inheritance, our true relationship with divinity, where the breath of the All-Merciful is blowing through us all the time. And we also have a Western face, where we deny that reality, ignore it, insist it doesn't exist. It's unreal. And we find ourselves in the alleys and highways and byways of a veiled and lonely and separate world. And both faces are occurring simultaneously. We talked about this last week with that illusory picture of the maiden and the crone that are both in the same face. Depends on how you focus. You're either seeing the old crone or the young maiden. They both exist at the same time. What you focus on and how you focus becomes your reality. That's why Jesus says in A Course in Miracles, lesson 128, the world I see has nothing I want. Because we came in with a default setting, right? We came in not realizing that as a human species, we broke that trust. We veiled the knowledge of the Creator. When? You could say at some point now. But whatever the case may be, we came to this reality already with our face turned away towards the veils and images. So we have to actually start where we are. And that is why most of us have to go over the hill in maturity before we begin to realize this world has nothing I want. Listen, the world you see has nothing that you need to offer you. Nothing that you can use in any way, nor anything at all that serves to give you joy. Believe this thought, and you are saved from years of misery, from countless disappointments, and from hopes that turn to bitter ashes of despair. No one but must accept this thought as true if he would leave this world behind and soar beyond its petty scope and little ways. Each thing you value here is but a chain that binds you to the world, and it will serve no other end but this. For everything must serve the purpose you have given it until you see a different purpose there. The only purpose worthy of your mind this world contains is that you pass it by, without delaying to perceive some hope where there is none. Be you deceived no more. The world you see has nothing that you want. Why? Because this world screams, God doesn't exist. That's why. It's a mirage. It's a hallucination. It's a bad dream. To the dreamer who believes in it, totally real. That's why you have to come to the choice of turning your face around and realizing there is only God. Then God can work through the signs of the world and bless you while you still seem to sojourn here. But if you're looking to get something from the world that screams God is not here, then you're a fool, and you will meet with despair until you're ready to declare what we're declaring now. Escape today the chains you place upon your mind when you perceive salvation here. Right? Anything that you've deemed worthy of your value and commitment and devotion in this world is your salvation. For what you value, you make part of you as you perceive yourself. All things you seek to make your value greater in your sight limit you further, hide your worth from you. I have to read that again because when I first read it, it took my breath away. All things you seek in this world to make your value greater in your sight limit you further and hide your worth from you. And add another bar, in case that's not enough. If you act now, you get to add another bar across the door that leads to true awareness of your higher self. So, the world you see offers nothing that you want. You're being called relentlessly back to love. And everything in your world can begin to show up as signs to direct you home. If you're listening, if you're ready. I hope you are. Blue bag's going to go around. And if you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, please see the link below, and you can donate to the 8 a.m. service by clicking on that link, and we greatly appreciate your generosity and support. Anybody have anything that they'd like to share, question? Yes, indeed. We are just blessing the offering because we know that with our intention it can be used to uplift the world and bring beings back to their true face and true knowledge and true joy. Amen. On that note, my friends, we can rise and bless out as we go within the heart as this still, receptive vessel, this key of light. We are still open to grace every moment. We are becoming increasingly more sensitive to these divine impulses of the call. May we continually answer and know that we are safe, we are protected, we are loved. And in this knowledge, we know that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Course in Miracles tomorrow night, 7:15 p.m. Be there. See you guys.